I met Zach Callahan in our sophomore year of college, back when our biggest worries were group projects and hangovers. He was the loud one, the guy who made friends instantly, the kind of man people orbit without realizing they're caught in. His gravity. I was quieter, the thoughtful observer. Maybe that's why we clicked. He burned bright and I just wanted to be near the light. Over the years, our friendship solidified. Late night talks, drunken pizza runs, heart-to-hearts when the world felt too big. Zach was straight, or so he said, so I never dared say what lingered in my chest. I accepted my role. The best friend, the confidant, the one who'd never cross that line no matter how much I wanted to. Now we were 28, and I was standing outside a Vegas hotel room, holding a bottle of water and half listening to a drunk couple laugh down the hallway. Inside was Zach, my straight best friend, celebrating his upcoming marriage with a weekend getaway. A few of his college buddies had come too, but by midnight, everyone had peeled off to chase their own version of trouble. Zach and I were sharing the suite. I opened the door softly, not expecting much. Just Zach passed out on the bed or flipping channels, but the room was dim, lit only by the glow of his phone screen. And there he was, sitting at the edge of the bed, shirtless, his body rigid, his hand working fast over himself. I froze. I should have backed out. Should have made noise. Something. But then my eyes caught the reflection in the mirror across from him and what was playing on his screen. Two men. Leaning into each other, kissing like the world was about to end. Zach gasped and looked up, our eyes locking. The silence hit hard, thick, suffocating. He fumbled for the blanket, yanked it up, cursed under his breath. "Liam," he said, voice shaky, "I thought you were still out." I stepped inside, closed the door behind me and forced a breath out. "Didn't mean to walk in on you." His face flushed, not just from embarrassment, but something deeper. A fear of being seen. A fear of being known. He rubbed his face, looking anywhere but at me. "It's nothing, just drunk. Vegas, right?" I sat on the edge of the couch. Not too close, not too far. "You don't have to explain." He scoffed. "Don't I? I'm getting married next month. To a woman who trusts me, who trusts you. You think this is nothing?" His voice cracked on the last word. My chest tightened. "I don't know what you want me to say," I whispered. For a moment, he looked at me like he was drowning. Like he wanted me to throw him a rope, but was terrified of what that rope meant. "I'm not like that," he muttered. "You know that, right?" I nodded. "Sure." But I didn't believe it. Not anymore. And maybe neither did he. The air between us thickened. The tension wasn't new. It had always been there, humming under the surface. I just never expected it to spill out like this. So raw, so unguarded. He dropped his head into his hands. God, what's wrong with me? I stared at the floor. Maybe nothing. He didn't respond. Just sat there breathing hard, like every inhale hurt. I could see the storm in his eyes, the years of buried confusion, of pretending. And for the first time, I didn't know if I was angry or heartbroken. I didn't know if I wanted to comfort him or walk out forever. But I knew one thing: whatever we were, whatever this was, it wasn't simple anymore. And the night had only just begun. Zach didn't speak for a long time. He just sat there, silent and tense, staring at the wall like it might give him the answers he couldn't find in himself. I stayed on the couch, fingers knotted, heart pounding like I'd just sprinted miles. The silence wasn't awkward, it was loaded, like standing in a minefield and daring to take the next step. Finally, he broke. "Do you ever feel like you've been lying for so long you don't even know what the truth sounds like anymore?" His voice was hollow, worn thin by something far deeper than guilt. I looked up slowly, catching his reflection in the mirror. Again, messy hair, damp eyes, the weight of years pressing on his shoulders. "Yeah," I said. "I do." He turned toward me, his jaw clenched. "I didn't plan that. What you saw. It just happened. I know, I replied, but maybe it didn't just happen. Zach let out a bitter laugh, not one of humor, but of disbelief. I'm marrying Emily, Liam. She's good, kind, she loves me, and I thought I loved her back. I didn't know what stung more, his confusion or the fact that I was only ever the secret, a hidden shadow behind the curtain of his public life. You don't have to explain anything to me, I said softly. I'm not asking you to make sense of it tonight. He shook his head. But I need to, because if I don't now, I'll just bury it again. Zach stood and paced the room, bare feet on carpet, arms wrapped tightly around himself. I think I've always known, he murmured, but I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to lose everything I'd built, so I told myself it was a phase, that what I felt around you was just admiration. I swallowed hard. And was it? He stopped walking. No. There it was. The confession neither of us expected, yet always feared. It didn't feel victorious. It felt like glass cracking beneath our feet. He looked at me then. Really looked. Do you remember that night, junior year? After we'd both flunked that econ test and drank too much cheap vodka? Of course I remembered. How we'd fallen, asleep on the floor of his apartment, shoulders touching, hearts louder than the music we'd left playing. You kissed me, he said. I blinked. You told me I imagined that. I lied. Silence fell again, but this time it was tender, heavy with memory. Zach stepped closer, slow, hesitant. I don't know what this makes me, he whispered. But I know I'm tired of pretending, at least with you. His hand reached out, not bold, not desperate, just trembling. I took it. The world didn't tilt. The ceiling didn't collapse. But something inside me cracked open. Years of restraint, of quiet longing, of being the best friend who never asked for more. It all came undone in a heartbeat. Zach leaned in, eyes searching mine for doubt. Permission, something human. I gave him none of it. I just met him where he was. Where we were. Our lips touched, and the years between us fell away. It wasn't lust, not only. It was confusion, grief, apology, longing. His touch was clumsy, but real. He kissed like a man, finally telling the truth, even if he didn't yet understand the language. I didn't stop him. I didn't want to. Maybe I should have. But in that moment, I wanted to be wanted, if only for tonight. Later, we lay tangled in silence, our breath the only sound. He stared at the ceiling like it held all the answers he'd refused to ask for. I don't know what to do, said finally. I didn't answer. I didn't know either, because in that dim hotel room, we hadn't just crossed a line, we'd erased it. And the sun was going to rise no matter how much we wanted to stay in the dark. Zach was gone by the time I woke up. The other side of the bed was cold, the sheets tucked and neat like he'd never been there at all. No note, no text, just silence where his presence had been hours before. I stared at the ceiling, replaying everything, his confession, his kiss, the way he trembled when he said my name, and how, in the darkness, for a fleeting moment, it felt like he'd chosen me. But the morning light had stripped all of that away. All that remained now was guilt, and the aching hollow it left behind. My phone buzzed around noon. A message from Emily. Hey, hope you boys had fun last night. Zach said he was feeling a little off today. Let me know if he needs anything. Miss you guys. I stared at her words until the screen dimmed. She had no idea, none, and that made it worse. Zach didn't reach out that day, or the next. I flew home alone, a pit growing in my chest with each mile that carried me further from him, from what we did, from what it meant. I told myself he needed time, that he was scared, that maybe this was how he processed. But deep down, I already knew. 2 days later, I saw his engagement photos go up on social media. Perfectly filtered. Smiles too wide, arms wrapped tight, a caption that read, "Can't wait to spend forever with my best friend." I didn't like the post. I didn't comment. I just stared at it, numb, until I finally looked away. That evening, my phone rang. Emily again. I hesitated before answering. "Hey, Liam," she chirped, cheerful as ever. "Sorry if I'm bothering you. Zach's been kind of distant since Vegas. I figured if something happened, maybe you'd know." I froze. My mind raced with lies I could tell. Maybe he'd drunk too much. Maybe he lost money. Maybe the pressure of the wedding was finally cracking through his perfect facade. "Nothing happened," I said. "It was a quiet night. He probably just needs space." She sighed on the other end. "Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks. I really love him, you know?" "Yeah," I said softly. "I know." We hung up, and I sat in the silence, letting the guilt settle deeper into my skin. Zach hadn't just cheated on his fiancée, he'd cheated on himself, and I let him. Worse, I helped him. Maybe I should have stopped him that night, told him to go to bed, reminded him of who he was supposed to be, but I didn't. Because for one night, I wanted to believe he could want me the way I'd always wanted him, even if it was a lie. A week passed before I saw him again. We ran into each other outside a cafe near campus. His eyes darted away the moment he saw me. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice even. He nodded. "Hey." That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just the silent agreement that what happened in Vegas would stay buried there, somewhere between the city lights and the truth we couldn't face. I stood there, watching him walk away, wondering how something so intimate could feel so meaningless. Now. But I wasn't angry. Not really. Just tired. I had loved him in silence for years, and when the silence finally broke, all it brought was regret. That night, I opened my notes app and started writing. Not to Zach, not to Emily. Just for myself. "I helped him cheat," I typed, not because I wanted revenge, not because I didn't care, but because for once, I wanted to be chosen, even if only in the dark. I saved it, closed my phone. Sometimes closure doesn't come in words or apologies. Sometimes it's just the quiet understanding that you loved someone more than they could ever love you back. And that has to be enough.